Hello, I'm Tim.
And I'm Sally.
And we are from Group, the volunteer management platform that looks after your people, communications, governance and data. And welcome to the Drop Shot Drop-In. Before we start, I'd like to point out that Sally never knows what the topic or subject could be about.
Thanks very much.
Today, we're actually going to be talking about the pros and cons of having a remote team. Sally, obviously, we've got people from Group who are remote and also in-house. How does that sort of affect yourself and the team, and what does that mean? What does that mean for Group itself?
Well, for Group, we can carry on business as usual because actually this is how we started. We started working from home. We've evolved over 7 years from a small team that has grown and worked remotely. So it's something that's just part of the parcel of running a social tech company. Mm-hmm. But I think for some of the newer members of our team over the last 18 months or so, it's probably a little bit more challenging.
Yep.
I'm starting to see, one or two people just really climbing the walls. If they're not used to it, they're used to that bouncing off of other people. Others quite like it. Some people like the peace and quiet, being able to get on with an awful lot more work. They're feeling like they're getting through their to-do list really fast.
Yeah. For me, it's strange because with the previous jobs that I've had, I've always worked in the working environment. I've never been able to work from home. So that first time that I was actually able to work from home was a little bit strange for myself. I was sort of, I knew I had to work, but I was sort of at home at the same time. It was a really weird balance, but I think if you can get that balance right, it can be quite a productive environment, as you said. And I think for myself, I actually quite prefer coming into the workspace and seeing everyone, communicating with people face to face. Obviously, it is doable online, and I think if you've got those measures there and that communication front, which I think is really important, having that really good communication through your team. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think the communication is utterly crucial. And right from the beginning of starting Group, as I say, 7 or 8 years ago now, we really made sure that we were pretty much, in those days it was all on Skype all the time, we'd be communicating constantly, literally sometimes just leaving those communication channels open. So while you're talking and you're working, we would be chatting together and so on, just like you would in an office. I think that's really important. And if you're someone who works on your own, in your own business, just for yourself, maybe freelancer, try and hook up with others who are doing the same sort of thing in other businesses. You probably do know people in your network who are doing very similar kinds of things on their own. So try and hook up, maybe in an agreed time, maybe just literally having those lines open so that you can chat and say, I'm going to get a cup of tea now. You're going to stop and have a cup of tea. It's trivial things, but I think it's really important.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is, finding your own space. I've been working remotely before we moved into our offices a year or so ago for about 20 years. And I've sort of progressed from the kitchen table to the spare room, to a bigger spare room, to then having an outside office, which was really fantastic, actually, having full space. And it also meant others could come into that space and work with me. But finding your own space away from the family can be really challenging, away from the dog or the cat.
Distractions. Absolutely. And I guess some people, in terms of bigger organisations, things like that, the ability to work from home in some ways has quite a big impact on the environment as well, not having to drive to work, have to use public transport, that side of things. Obviously, I know hybrid cars, electric modes of transport are all coming into play, but again, it's one of those things that I think at the moment can be seen as quite a big pro to the whole working from home aspect. Obviously, there are cons as well, but I think in that side of things, that line of not having to travel, obviously, the climate and the planet at the moment, I think that is quite a big pro to be able to work from home.
Well, this obviously has been a big impact with people working at home at the moment, and already they're seeing some effects on a global nature. In fact, some people might even probably come up with this, perhaps a conspiracy theory around it. Who
absolutely.
Knows? Friends of Greta, maybe.
Yeah.
It's always possible. But in all seriousness, if you think about where you live, especially if you live in an urban area or a very busy road through a rural area, that bringing down of the fumes and so on will have some impact. So I wonder if that will reduce the elements of the effects of asthma and so on, which is something that some of my family have, and I'd like to see that changing, you know. So
Yeah.
is this going to end up being a sort of positive, you know, outcome of what's been happening?
Absolutely. And I think, again, we'll touch on this a little bit later on in some other episodes. But I think where we've started today, I mean, 5 minutes is a really short amount of time to be able to talk about anything. And there we go, there's the timer. You know, we've been able to discuss, and if I can get that cancelled, there we go. Perfect. Again, it's one of those, you know, 5 minutes is a really short period of time. I think we've been able to squeeze quite a lot into that 5 minutes. So, I mean, thank you for joining me on these sort of really short 5 minute drop-in appointments, if you like. And again, we'll be following these up with other ones throughout the day. If you have any thoughts on what Sally and I have discussed in this one, feel free to leave them in comments below. And if you want to get in contact with us, we have decided to finish on a bit of a joke of the day.
Hang on, get in contact via what though?
You can get in contact via the communication platform group, and also through the actual email address, which could be the support@group.com, is a good one to come through if you do want to have any chat with us. But the joke for today is, what do you call a three-eyed dinosaur? Three-eyed dinosaur? Did you think he saw us? Thanks everyone for listening. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.